Hello, and welcome to 20 Minutes with Jesus. Take a moment to slow your breathing. Let your heart settle. You don't need to rush through this moment. You are not here by accident. This time is for you. Let's begin. There are seasons when God's silence feels heavier than any spoken word. You pray, you wait, you listen, and nothing seems to come. No direction. No reassurance, no clear sense of what God is doing, and slowly, a painful thought begins to form. Have I been forgotten? This is one of the most difficult places a believer can find themselves. Silence does not feel neutral. It feels personal. It feels confusing. It feels lonely. Many people expect faith to always feel responsive. They believe that if they are praying sincerely and walking faithfully, God's voice should feel close and clear. When that does not happen, doubt begins to whisper. Not loud doubt, but quiet, persistent doubt that settles in the heart. Am I doing something wrong? Did I miss God somewhere? Why does it feel like everyone else hears Him but me? These questions are not signs of weak faith. They are signs of a heart that longs for God's presence. What makes God's silence so painful is not just the lack of answers, it is the emotional distance it seems to create. The heart equates silence with absence, and absence with rejection, but silence and absence are not the same. God's silence does not mean He has stepped away. In fact, many times God is closest when He is quietest. Silence often appears when God is doing deeper work that cannot be explained quickly or clearly. When He is reshaping trust, when He is forming endurance, when He is strengthening faith beyond emotional reassurance. But in the moment, silence feels unbearable. The heart wants reassurance. The soul wants confirmation. The mind wants clarity. Without them, fear can take root. Fear that God is distant. Fear that prayers are unheard. Fear that something is wrong. And this fear can slowly drain hope if it is not gently addressed. God understands this struggle. He does not dismiss the pain of silence. He does not shame the heart for longing to hear Him. He knows how unsettling it feels to love deeply and not sense a response. Silence tests what faith is rooted in. Is faith anchored in feelings, or is it anchored in trust? This is where maturity begins to form, not because the silence feels good, but because the heart learns to trust God beyond sensation, beyond emotion, beyond immediate feedback. If you are in a season where God feels silent, you are not alone, and you are not forgotten. Silence does not mean neglect. It often means God is working in ways that require patience, depth, and quiet trust. As we continue this episode, allow yourself to acknowledge how the silence has made you feel, without guilt, without pretending strength. God meets you there, even when He is quiet. When God is silent, the heart often fills the gap with assumptions. Silence creates space. And if that space is not gently held by truth, fear will rush in to explain it. Most of the pain in seasons of silence does not come from God's quietness itself, but from what we begin to believe because of it. One of the first lies the heart accepts is this: God's silence means disapproval. We begin to search our lives for mistakes. We replay conversations, decisions, prayers. We wonder if we failed spiritually, if we disappointed God, or if we somehow stepped outside of His will. Silence starts to feel like punishment. But God's silence is not correction. When God corrects, He is clear. When He disciplines, He is intentional. Silence is something else entirely. God's silence is also not abandonment. Abandonment implies absence. Silence does not. God can be deeply present and profoundly quiet at the same time. His presence does not depend on constant communication. Just as love does not disappear when words are absent, God's nearness does not vanish when his voice is not felt. Another painful assumption is that silence means God is more attentive to others than to us. We see people sharing testimonies, hearing direction, sensing God's guidance clearly. Meanwhile, we feel left out, overlooked, spiritually behind. Comparison intensifies the silence and turns it into shame. But God does not relate to hearts identically. Silence is not a sign of spiritual inferiority. It is often a sign that God is working with you personally, uniquely, intentionally. What he is forming in you may require quiet rather than instruction, depth rather than direction, endurance rather than movement. Silence is also not wasted time. The heart often believes that nothing is happening if nothing is being said. But silence is frequently where the most important work takes place. Roots grow underground. Muscles strengthen through resistance. Trust deepens when it is not constantly reinforced by reassurance. God's silence is not his absence, it is his restraint. He restrains immediate answers. He restrains explanations. He restrains emotional confirmation. Not because he is distant, but because he is forming something stronger than dependence on feelings. He is shaping faith that can stand when emotions fluctuate and circumstances do not cooperate. Silence reveals what the heart depends on most. If peace disappears when God is quiet, it means peace was tied to sensation rather than trust. If faith weakens when answers are delayed, it reveals how much reassurance has been carrying the weight of belief. God does not expose these things to condemn us, but to mature us. This is uncomfortable work. Silence strips away spiritual noise. It removes shortcuts. It forces the heart to confront what it truly believes about God. Is God good even when he is quiet? Is he faithful even when he does not explain himself? Is he near even when he does not reassure? These questions are not theoretical. They are formed in the silence itself. God often remains silent because he is teaching the heart how to trust his character rather than his voice, how to remain faithful without constant feedback, how to love him for who he is, not only for what he provides emotionally. Silence also teaches patience. Not passive patience, but resilient patience. The kind that keeps praying even when prayer feels one-sided. The kind that keeps obeying even when motivation fades. The kind that keeps believing even when doubt tries to settle in. God honors this kind of faith deeply. If you are in a season of silence, it does not mean you are being ignored. It does not mean you are forgotten. And it does not mean you are failing spiritually. It often means God trusts you enough to deepen your faith. Silence is not God stepping away. It is God working quietly. And as painful as silence can feel, it often prepares the heart for a deeper, steadier relationship with God. One that will not collapse when life becomes loud again. One of the hardest truths to accept in seasons of silence is this: God is often doing his deepest work when he explains the least. Silence is not empty space. It is a sacred environment where God forms things that words alone could never produce. When God is silent, he is not withholding himself. He is shaping trust. In silence, faith is no longer supported by feelings, clarity, or reassurance. The heart must decide what it believes without emotional confirmation. This is uncomfortable, but it is also transformative. God is teaching the heart how to remain anchored when there is nothing external holding it steady. Silence reveals the foundation of faith. If faith is built on emotion, silence shakes it. If faith is built on trust, silence strengthens it. God often allows silence because He is moving faith from the surface to the roots. Surface faith depends on encouragement, answers, and spiritual experiences. Rooted faith remains steady even when none of those are present. In the silence, God begins to retrain the heart. He retrains how you listen. He retrains how you pray. He retrains how you trust. Prayer becomes less about receiving responses and more about remaining present. Worship becomes less about feeling uplifted and more about choosing faithfulness. Obedience becomes less about motivation and more about commitment. This is not a downgrade of faith. It is a deepening. Silence also exposes emotional dependencies we were unaware of. Many people depend on feeling God's presence to feel secure. When those feelings fade, fear rises. God does not remove emotional reassurance to punish us, but to free us from needing it in order to trust Him. God wants your faith to survive seasons where feelings cannot, because life will not always feel spiritually alive. Answers will not always come quickly. Direction will not always be clear. Silence prepares you for those realities without destroying your faith. In the silence, God is also healing areas of disappointment. Past prayers that were unanswered, hopes that were delayed, moments when God did not act the way you expected. Silence brings these things to the surface, not to reopen wounds, but to finally address them. God heals disappointment gently, slowly, and deeply. This kind of healing cannot be rushed. Silence teaches the heart how to stay present, stay faithful, stay open. Many people leave God emotionally when silence becomes uncomfortable. They stop expecting anything. They lower their hope. They withdraw. But those who remain, even without understanding, experience a different kind of transformation. Remaining in silence requires courage. It requires trusting God without explanation. It requires loving God without feedback. It requires staying when walking away would feel easier. God honors this kind of faith profoundly. Silence also reshapes identity. When God is quiet, achievements, performance, and spiritual activity lose their power to define worth. The heart is forced to confront this truth. I am loved even when I am not receiving anything. This realization stabilizes identity at its core. You are not loved because God speaks. You are loved because He is God. This truth changes everything. It removes the fear of being forgotten. It removes the anxiety of not hearing correctly. It removes the pressure to perform spiritually. Silence strips faith down to its essence. Trust, surrender, relationship. God often waits to speak until the heart is no longer depending on sound. When trust is established, words regain their proper place. But until then, silence does the work words cannot. If you are walking through a season where God feels silent, understand this. You are not being pushed away. You are being drawn deeper. God is forming a faith that will not collapse when emotions fluctuate or when circumstances grow difficult. The silence is not a rejection. It is an invitation. An invitation to trust God beyond what you feel. An invitation to remain even when it is hard. An invitation to let faith mature quietly. And one day, often without warning, you will look back and realize that the silence did not weaken your faith. It strengthened it. It did not distance you from God. It anchored you more deeply in Him. God's silence is not the absence of love. It is the quiet work of transformation. God, we come before you carrying the weight of unanswered prayers and quiet moments where we long to hear your voice. You see how silence has affected our hearts. You know the questions we have asked, the nights we have waited, and the moments when we wondered if you were still near. Today, we bring all of this honestly into your presence. We confess that your silence has sometimes made us feel unsure. We have searched for signs, for clarity, for reassurance that you are still working. And when none came, fear tried to speak in your place. Forgive us for the moments when we believed the silence meant distance rather than depth. God, help us trust you in the quiet. When our prayers feel unanswered, remind us that you are listening. When your voice feels distant, remind us that your presence is not. When silence feels heavy, teach us to rest instead of retreat. We surrender the need for constant reassurance. We lay down the expectation that you must always explain what you are doing. Teach us to trust your character more than our feelings. Help us believe that you are just as faithful in silence as you are in clarity. God, heal the disappointment that silence has uncovered. Heal the prayers we hoped would be answered differently. Heal the hope that feels tired from waiting. Heal the fear that whispers we have been forgotten. We invite you to do the deep work that only silence can accomplish. Shape our faith where words cannot reach. Strengthen our trust where emotions fall short. Form in us a confidence that does not depend on hearing you, but on knowing you. God, teach us how to remain close to you when it feels quiet. Teach us to keep praying without bitterness. Teach us to keep believing without forcing answers. Teach us to keep loving you without conditions. We acknowledge that silence has revealed things within us: impatience, fear, unmet expectations. We do not hide these from you. We ask you to gently transform them. Replace fear with peace. Replace impatience with endurance. Replace doubt with quiet confidence in your faithfulness. God, help us believe that silence is not a punishment, but a place of preparation. That you are forming a faith that will last beyond emotions and circumstances. That you are anchoring us deeper than we realize. We choose to trust you here. Not because we understand, not because it feels easy, but because you are good. When you speak again, we will listen. When you move, we will follow. But until then, we choose to remain. Thank you for being near even when you are quiet. Thank you for working even when we cannot see it. Thank you for loving us consistently, patiently, and deeply. We place our hearts in your hands. We trust you in the silence. And we believe that you are still writing our story. Amen. As we come to the end of this time together, take a slow breath and allow your heart to rest. God's silence does not mean distance. It does not mean neglect. And it does not mean you have been forgotten. Silence is not the absence of God. It is often the presence of His deeper work. If you are in a season where God feels quiet, remain. Do not rush away. Do not assume the silence means something is wrong. Stay faithful. Stay open. Stay near. God is closer than you realize, even when you cannot feel or hear Him. You are not being ignored. You are being formed. As you move forward, allow trust to carry you where feelings cannot. Let faith remain steady even when reassurance is missing. Continue praying, continue believing, and continue walking. Not because you have answers, but because you know who God is. If this time encouraged your heart, keep creating space to sit with God, even in the quiet. Silence can become a place of growth, healing, and deep trust when you choose to remain. May your heart stay anchored. May your faith grow deeper. And may you continue trusting God even in the silence.